6. This year has flown by. I'd like to call our meeting to order. And ladies and gentlemen, it's customary here to rise. We'll have a pledge to the flag, which will be followed by an invocation. I'd like to call on Councilman Elrod for the pledge and Councilman Stewart for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Stewart.
Let us pray. Our Father God, we just call to say thank you for all the blessings you've sent our way. Our Father, as we approach Thanksgiving season, we have a lot to be thankful and grateful for. We thank you for this mayor, this council, and the city of McDonough. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated and welcome to our council meeting. Before I get started, I'd like to take a few moments just to address something. As you all may be aware, there have been some issues raised recently concerning comments that I made that appear to call into question the circumstances surrounding our city administrator's absence from last week's special call meeting. Let me say first that since last week we have been provided with information that confirms what Fred told us. I hope that everyone here is satisfied with this as I am and is reassured that our good friend Mr. Gardner was being totally honest with us. No question about it. I wouldn't expect it any less. Although Fred and I discussed this matter last week, I want to make it clear tonight, I in no way intended to suggest that Mr. Gardner was being untruthful to me or to cast doubt on his son's serious medical condition with my remark. The simple truth is, ladies and gentlemen, it seems possible to me, for whatever reason, even a legitimate reason, Fred may have had reservations about continuing on with the city. I just didn't know. As it turned out, we are unfortunately losing Fred to East Point. He has accepted a position as our new city manager and will be starting with them in the near future. Finally, for my part, I cannot thank my friend Fred enough for his years of service to the citizens of McDonough and to the city council. And on behalf of all of our city employees and others, I wish him much success in this new endeavor. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I want to call on Mr. Chris Smith. Mr. Chris Smith is on your agenda, and I've invited Chris to come to the podium. I'm going to give him 7 minutes to share with you some information and some concerns he has, and I've talked to him about the 7 minutes. Normally we do 5, but I'm going to do 7 tonight, and I'm going to try to keep it in that neighborhood. Mr. Smith, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council, for allowing me to speak tonight. I certainly understand that time is all the essence. I'm on the city council with the city of Covington, and I do appreciate you allowing me to come speak at your meeting tonight. We normally meet tonight at y'all meet, so it's important for me to come any other time. The incident I have in hand here is some property damage that was done to my business at Newton Electric Supply on Zach Hinton Parkway. We've been in the city of McDonough for 20 years. Been good customers of your service, of your city for 20 years, and have had an incident happen where a garbage truck, we believe, hit our building. We have on a DVR tape the truck driving through the parking lot at a high rate of speed. We have proof that there was damage done to my building. I brought a piece of the building itself that you can peel back the scraping on the pavement instead of blue paint, which matches the Republic blue paint. That is your garbage service that y'all provide service through. It took place on June 24th. On July the 1st, I called Republic, spoke with Mildred, Tracy, then Joanna. Joanna called me back on the 14th, stated that they felt like they were not responsible for the damage to the building. I had called the McDonough Police Department. I had a report done by your police department. Your police officer Cross wrote the report up with criminal damage to property in the first degree, which is over $1,000 damage to the building, which will make that a felony. The police department, I did call and speak with Chief Dorsey on the 22nd of August. He did welcome me, and I appreciate his time that he did spend with me. The 25th, he said he would have the CID or Criminal Investigation Division contact me I never got a contact from the police department as far as CID. I did get a contact from Lauren, which is their secretary, I understand, and she told me that per the chief and per the major in CID that it was a closed case and that the city of McDonough had no further investigation into this issue. On the 5th of September, I contacted the mayor because I felt like there was nowhere else to go. I had called the city administrator, left a voicemail with your city administrator, and never got a return phone call from that gentleman. I did speak with the mayor. The mayor met with the chief of police, another gentleman that works for y'all, and I don't recall his name, but Mr. Dickerson, and we spoke and went over exactly what transpired. So that's where I'm at right now. It's $1,500 was the damage of the building. The company that erected the building came out and gave me a price on it. I've got to fix the building. I feel like that it's very unfair that your subcontractor y'all hired to do your garbage service I believe has damaged the building. I feel like the evidence in hand. I'm very disappointed in the police department's lack of action in this case, being it is a felony. I was very disappointed that your city administrator never returned my call, and I would just like to see some action taken. The mayor said that we don't have an option, and according to the ordinance, and I did look it up, it says we have to use Republic. But I will caution you guys that the Checkers next door to me at Newton Electric is using Waste Management, and the BP station across the street from my business is using K&G Patton as their garbage service. So my question to you is, if y'all do feel like that Waste Management is still not at fault, I'd like the opportunity to go to another provider if that is an option that this council can grant to me, because I'm not satisfied with Republic or their actions. That's all I have at this point. If there's any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them. I did get a letter from the insurance company from Gallagher Bassett Services saying that they were denying the claim, that they felt like it was not their damage.
That's your insurance company?
No, that's your,
City.
that's the city insurance company went out and looked at it, and they felt like too that it's not their responsibility. I still feel that it is. I've done the work for the police department. I've got the stuff here. They can check it, they can analyze it against the Republic truck, and I think that clearly they'll see it's the same blue. And all I want is my building fixed.
But, I told Mr. Smith I'd give it up to 7 minutes, and, that information, he alluded to the insurance claim you received last week, denying that claim. And I told him the other option, I would invite him to come and speak to this entire council, and that's what we're here at this time. Unless you, as members of the council, have any questions of him, I told him we'd take this under advisement, and we'd be back in touch with him once we had an opportunity for the council to hear exactly what he had to say. Anybody have any comments?
The only question I have, do we have video?
Yes, ma'am, the police department had a copy of the video. The truck driving rapidly through my parking lot. The video does not actually show the truck hitting my building. It does show the truck at 2:30 in the morning, them going through my parking lot at a rapid speed that the police department did get a copy of. And then the next morning when I came in at 7, the building did have the damage done to it with the blue paint on the building. The gentleman that met with us said he did go measure the height of the truck where I felt like he hit the building, and the height with the 6-inch curve was exactly to the inch of what the size of the garbage trucks are.
Okay, Mr. Smith, thank you for bringing that to our attention. As I told you walking in, I met you on the elevator, that we'd look into this again, and you will hear from us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you so much. Okay, good council members, let's move down to item number 5. I entertain a motion to approve of the agenda.
So moved.
Have a second? Have a second. Thank you. Yeah. Put it.
I know this is done with the grant, before we agree on the $70,000 share, where it come from.
No, this is just a regular one.
This is just overall. Yeah, overall. Got a motion? Yeah. Did somebody second?
Who's second?
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Ms. Price, please restate the motion and the second.
The motion is to approve tonight's agenda.
All right, would you please, ladies and gentlemen, please vote at this time. In favor?
6 in favor.
Okay. One of our council members is absent for you visitors here. Let's move down to item number 6. Approval of the consent agenda. ladies and gentlemen, you have items B, A, B, C, and D. Give you a moment to just to look those over. And after you have looked those over, I'll entertain a motion the consent agenda be approved. Well, what is your question?
The question is, where was $370,000 share? Yeah.
I'll ask Mr. Fred, Mr. Stewart had asked about, the $378,000 under consent item A, the city share, where that dollar is coming from.
Yeah, let me get some back up on how long this process.
Okay,
will
go ahead.
I'll
Go ahead, Ryan.
answer that question.
Yes, Mayor and Council, speaking with Mr. Gardner, the initial, the resolution that came through was in 2011. At the time, you had, Mr. Beckett was the city administrator and Kathy Fields was your community development director. There was a estimated amount of $500,000 that was to be placed in the budget. This is in your supplemental documents that are part of your workshop material. Then proceeding, of course, that was 2011 with the application. We are in 2014, and speaking briefly with Mr. Gardner today, the options are we have the general fund budget, which this item would have to be put into the next fiscal year, the amount, or that it was lost.
It wasn't a splosh budget. I don't think legally you can put it into splosh.
If it's roadway improvements, you can do it as roadway improvements, because what's gonna happen is part of the things that they're gonna be doing is sidewalk improvements.
Yes, sir.
Right. All of that stuff, which is covered under the SPOS transportation.
So long as it fits within those broad categories that were approved as part of the intergovernmental agreement, then it can be an approved SPOS project.
And this the AGO, something?
At the time, yes, because I remember we adopted a new bonded list that didn't include this, so this will have to be a paperwork. And according to Rodney, the time frame in terms of what we're looking at, this project starting in about a year and a half out for this project to start. So you're talking FY16.
16. All right, any other thing? Let's go back and see if we can get approval for A, B, C, and D.
And we just need for the record to
Got a second?
identify that it is gonna be Paygo SPOS
Second.
Transportation.
Second.
For the record, Paygo SPOS Transportation,
Fair enough.
because this is a federal grant and it has to be legally identified in our record.
Okay.
And that was Washington Creek.
That would be,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Stewart.
Stewart and Ella, okay?
All right, once again, who did the motion? And who the second?
Council
The motion is to approve the consent agenda with adding the amendment regarding 6A under the funding budget information regarding the $378,000, that will be identified to be a pay-as-you-go project for fiscal year 16 under transportation.
All right, folks, you've heard the motion.
Paygo under SPOS.
Oh, I'm sorry, pay-go under the SPOS.
Yeah, that's right. All right, you've heard the motion reread. Motion second, this time to call for a vote. Those in favor, please signify by the raise of the hand. Those in opposition likewise. What is the vote?
6 in favor, Mayor.
Thank you so much.
And Mayor, before you go on, I think for the record, we should, and for the public here, I think we should be very proud of the fact that we have a grant of $1,512,000. And, that was, if you recall, was a much more substantial one that Mr. Beckett recommended that we not go for the larger amount, and at this point, I really wish we had.
I remember it very vividly. I sure do. Thank you, Bill. All right, Mr. Hurd, let's get down to item number 7. Community development, item A and B, and the concept plan of C. How about let's take in the first one, Jeffrey Ritchie on behalf of Garrity Properties LLP. How about, let's take it up first. Is it LLP or LLC?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, good. Go
Mayor,
ahead.
members of council, presentation is for rezoning request. For the property located at 162 Keys Ferry Street, within your downtown commercial business district. Your materials are in your packets. The applicant seeks rezoning from C2 Central Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial to allow for a restaurant with drive-through. In the case review, you already have an existing restaurant with a drive-through next door. The reason why we're saying next door is the former location of the Georgia Power Company will now be your new crossover between your one-way pairs. So this is your subject property. This is the case study. We will be looking at a commercial rezoning with our typical development standards and presenting that to you on the 17th. The applicant has also provided to us, by way of the Planning Commission meeting, this sketch that's also in your packet. It's a change in the initial concept plan. We are still communicating with GDOT, and also too, this information has been provided to Mr. Trescott on his arrival for additional input as we then return back to you on the 17th with the Planning Commission's recommendations. Mayor?
All right, thank you, Rodney. Anybody have any question of Rodney? We've got the applicant here, representative of this group. We welcome you. Any comments you might have? Yes.
This newest sketch that Rodney you put up with the blue income, that's the most current one? Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. The reason for the adjustment is really because this is a one-way
Right.
road, and so it doesn't make sense to have an entrance that is two ways when it's actually opposite. Because the original plan, if you make a left in, then you can't make a right out without incident, which is why we would make a slight adjustment. Again, that was an original sketch by our engineer.
That was my only question, because that was the first thing I saw when I looked at it, of that, exactly what you mentioned. So that was my only question.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council person have any questions of Rodney before we give the applicant a chance? Again, welcome. This is going to be interesting.
So,
Any comments you might like to have to say on behalf of the partners and the properties? We welcome those this time.
I appreciate it. I mean, fairly simple. I mean, this is a commercial property. The main reason for the request is so that we can get a drive-through. We have a tenant that's interested in being on this property, but they need a drive-through to come in. And, as Mr. Hurd mentioned, there's the Hardee's next door, and I think this building actually has a drive-through as well on that side of the street. So we felt that that would be appropriate as both sides of the property have a drive-through. And of course, really this is easily accessed based on the fact that there'll be 4 roads surrounding it, that it really makes sense to include the drive-through as a means of accessing the property and coming in and out of it. It's tight property, so that drive-through allows for our tenants to do more sales as opposed to coming in and out into that parking.
This is not a sit-down in restaurant,
It would be more of a fast food kind of place.
because I noticed that, I'm sorry. Thank you. This would be, you have limited parking, is that correct?
We have, I think we have parking by code. I mean, we're not asking for a reduction in parking. It's just that it's a tight site, so we.
Yeah, right.
But it's not it is enough parking to support that use, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't come.
All right, any other? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Vincent, go ahead.
Yes, and this is, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a question for Rodney. Given the proximity to City Hall and the concern relative to facade treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
At what point will that actually be taken into account?
We're going to go ahead and we're going to be proactive. One of the things, and I appreciate that because that was one of the last comment I was going to share with you and members of the council. Our first item is scale of buildings. The scale of City Hall and the scale of this building are different. So how we're going to achieve architectural compatibility is by way of your materials. The brick that you see on the exterior of this building, which is the same that is at our South Point retail development, we will utilize for around the base, and then the color palette that is existing on your City Hall, we will then also use on the building. It's going to be hard to try to then take and reduce the size of the columns and then have them look visually appealing.
Are your tenants aware of the fact that this is a consideration and a concern for the council, given the location?
Our tenants are, they always understand that there are adjustments that they make. Obviously, they want to have their corporate look, but obviously, we can make adjustments to that.
And I ask that question this way because I understand in economic development, you do have to be sensitive and kind of not discuss who the tenants are. But given that a lot of your franchises do in fact have trademark facades, I just wonder how limited we are into how much we can dictate on the facade or even request, because that's an important element for this corridor.
Understood. And again, the colors here are just quick, red brick. Things like the base are easy to adjust because that's not where the tenant is going to need their logo. Their logo needs to be up top. And so the color of the brick on the bottom, the color of the ephes that is going to be the facade, it's white or beige or whatever color. So that's actually pretty easy. Really where the differences lie are the front of the store based on their corporate colors and usually the top. So that's where they put their logos on, so we want to make sure that the logos they put on match or they're visually easier to see based on the color of that upper color. Obviously, we'll make it, we can work with you. And isn't, sir, Mr. Hurd, is the next process would be a review of the facades after we get the zoning, or before?
That is correct. We're going to be going on the floor tonight, the UDC, by Michelle with the Pond Company. So some of that at a later time will be addressed. Right now we have an active case before you, so you will see some of our development standards we placed as conditions on this case.
All right, are there other questions? Councilperson, yes ma'am.
I would like for the gentleman to understand that a number of buildings that you see along this corridor were done prior to us as a council coming together and even as a city coming together and understanding how important it is to generate an overall look for a community. And we wanted to keep as much as possible the historic nature of the community while we did commercial things. CBS did a very good job of matching across the way where Heritage Bank is with the brick building. Safe Right is a good example of what we don't want again. And architecturally, the new little strip mall that's beyond Safe Right is an example of where we were going with the exception of the yellow brick that creeped in somehow. But Hardee's came in at a time when people weren't thinking, because Hardee's actually would have put their business in the existing historic house that there and hung out a Hardee's shingle, So whatever goes on that lot right there, I think is going to be crucial to us that it at least looks similar in appearance with the brick buildings that we have brought along and the other buildings that we deem are in a little better compliance with our community and where we expect it to go and endure. We want something that's going to survive. And so please be very aware of that, even when you're talking about colors and logo, because that is going to be problematic for me as a council person and possibly others.
Any other questions? This is really an interesting policy. To have double exposure ingress and egress is one thing. To have triple and quadruple ingress and possibility.
That's why I like it.
And that's, it has so much potential. And of course, the 155 obviously going to be the east side. But right now, as I understood it, and I was trying to look for something. Did you say you're just going to use Covington, John Frank Ward, and Keys Fair ingress and egress?
Correct. I don't think we can use John Frank Ward. I don't think we can use because of elevation.
Is that right?
And there's some trees. And with 155, we would have to negotiate with DOT.
Lord. I can't live long enough that time.
There you go. Well, we've done projects in the past, and we've worked with them, but the most we would be able to get out of a DOT, and I'm not saying we would even have it, would be a right in, right out,
Right.
obviously, from that intersection. But it's not gonna, that's not the difference between making and breaking it. We do not expect Covington Street to have an access point, that there's the wall there,
Yes,
there's the
sir.
trees existing,
Yeah.
there's no point in touching that.
Well, that's good, that's fine, but it is a really an interesting cause, always has been. But we welcome you to McDonough, Councilman Rod, you have any other?
No, not at this time. See you on the 17th.
We'll look forward to seeing you the 17th, we'll have a public hearing, give you an opportunity to speak again, give Rodney an opportunity, and then vote for those in favor of this modification. We welcome those as well as those in opposition, so be here 17th, at what time, 6 o'clock?
I'll be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir. Thank you for being here. Okay, folks. Mr. Hurd, let's move down to Eli Green and Tyler Fan, MDX Partners, item number B, rezoning, and that is in Ms. Barnes' district. Come, hey, Green.
Eli Green, how are
Hey,
you?
Mr. Green, Billy Cole.
Mr. Mayor, James Nichols.
Hey, Mr. Nichols, come on in and have a seat.
Mr. Fan could not join us here, we'll spread out
Oh,
here.
good. That's right, we got one of our ladies out tonight, so thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Rodney, how about bring us up to speed here?
Okay, give you a quick overview. Both myself and Bob are really excited. This is a repurpose for one of the industrial buildings. The request is rezoning from M1 to C3 by Mr. Eli Green for property at 170 to 176 Richfield Parkway. You have seen this property before. The property initially was C3, part of a master plan development by the applicant Marvin Eisenberg. There was a change in the scope. Fortunately, Mr. Eisenberg is now deceased, and so the property went back to the bank. These two buildings here were originally supposed to be demolished by way of the conditions of zoning. The Community Development Department took action, presented you a plan. These were salvaged. They're now occupied. And this is the subject property that we are discussing with tonight. And it is for a portion, and I'm going to give the due respect to Mr. Green for the announcement of the business. And we are occupying a percentage of the building, and then there will be the residual, which they will be working with Mr. Trescott and myself regarding the addition of businesses in your South Point development area.
Is that the chance of part of the old NEC street?
Yes, that
It
is
right.
correct.
NEC.
That's the reason why this site's very familiar to everyone.
Yes, in council, ladies and gentlemen, just for benefit, I know it's somewhat of a sensitive subject. My company bought the building in the first quarter of this year, so we bought it after, what I understand, it was rezoned last year from C3 to M1, and now we, of course, are, with all due respect, requesting it to be rezoned from M1 to C3, because James and James's company, we're in the process of negotiating a lease with them to take roughly half the building. James is with a company called Get Air that operates indoor trampoline parks, and that use is required, or it is not accepted under the M1 zoning, but it is under this C3. So that's the basis for this request, and we're here to answer any and all questions that you all would have.
Okay, folks, welcome.
So at one
Yes, sir.
time, it was C3?
Yes, sir. They're part of a master plan retail development.
I think in July of last year, it was rezoned from C3 to M1, I believe.
Ladies?
Yes. Councilperson Barner isn't here, but I would like to make this comment on her behalf, because I know one of her focuses for the area is to make that a family-friendly environment, and to know that you're coming in with, a trampoline company for kids, is that correct?
That's right.
What about old folks?
That's.
You know, we have a rule. The rule is if you can walk, you can jump.
You can.
All right.
We see 1-year-olds up to 2 people with 1 foot of the grave. So
All right.
If you want to step on the trampoline,
Just as long as I got the option.
it's a decision you get to make.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So that's really exciting, so thank you for coming to McDonough.
We're excited.
We are excited about it, and I taught school forever, and you've got an enormous population of kids that will just be absolutely thrilled. for whatever age they happen to be, they'll be thrilled with your leave.
I tell you this, and I know I speak for the council, anybody that invests capital in the city of McDonough, we want you to be successful. We do all we can to make that happen. So, unless y'all have something, just be sure that you get here at 6 o'clock on the 17th. We'll give people an opportunity for comments, those in favor, those in opposition, and then we'll cast a vote and notify you in advance what our decision is.
We appreciate your time, and we're, absolutely. No, I mean, we can have that discussion. One question's been about parking, because we know that under the C3 parking, we discussed this with Rodney, that the parking requirement is 10 spaces per every 1,000 square feet. We're not going to be able to provide 1,000 parking spaces for this 100,000 square foot building. However, we worked very closely with James's group and used over 20 locations that they have across the country as a barometer. And for a facility this size, they need roughly 75 to 85 parking spaces, which are the number of spaces that are actually striped, which we will of course restripe, that are out front. That doesn't even take into account the truck court area, which could of course be restriped as well. So we feel we have ample parking there, not to mention some other areas where we could add parking should we need it. But we work closely with their group and use past experience to really make sure that that is, ample. But we're going to, work with Rodney on that front.
Right, I mean, would they have to request a variance, or how would that be addressed?
It's a possibility. We're going to just review this in more detail with Lee, and also to discuss with Bob and look and see what our options are, and then return back to you.
And how much is the deal for?
Yes.
All right, that's encouraging.
We appreciate your all's time.
James, what's your last name?
Nichols.
Nichols. Yes, I'll go tell them.
He's hopeful that you did. James, let's go have dinner, okay? I don't want to.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, James. We got a good see, good see. Thanks so much. Good see you again soon. All right. That's interesting. Young guys, let's move down to another applicant, Rose, report, I guess, Rodney, that's about the Ridgeline Property Group, bring that, concept plan to our consideration, and then we'll have, come up. Oh, yes, ma'am, I didn't see you coming. Oh, yeah, come on up. Anytime you got a master plan.
Sometimes it's easier to see the large one and.
That's the one. Come on, have a seat, man. Okay, Rodney.
Mayor, thank you, members of the council. This is approval of the concept plan review. As you can see in your summary, the request is in response to the stipulations that were outlined in the approval of an ordinance in 2004 by the city council that was associated with your Avalon master plan development. It stated that all development within M1 industrial district zoning classification required the review and approval of the planning commission and mayor council prior to the progression of land development activity. Also, too, the original DRI did address, and there has been approval by way of a development agreement for the thresholds associated with this. Ms. Levo, she will be addressing too the initial thresholds that were allowed, and this project is under that threshold.
Okay, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate your time tonight. We're here to request concept plan approval for this proposed warehouse distribution center. It's one of the last remaining pieces down there on Avalon Parkway that was zoned for industrial. Back in '99, it was zoned for industrial. 2004, it was annexed into the city, remains industrial to this day. A portion of it was sold off to Great Dane Company to the north, 20 acres. This is the remaining 53 acres to the south of that. It does accommodate a little over 714,000 square foot cross dock. It would be a Class A facility, concrete tilt. It is not a metal panel building. All the truck courts and truck parking is concrete, so you have less maintenance. It has better reflectivity for LEED certification for environmental purposes. All the detention is to the north. It would also be done, of course, to the standards of the city and the state. We have 4 entranceways. There are 5 entrances, including the track that Great Dane has that was approved during the DRI. Rodney has been proactive with us to meet with Henry County DOT to confirm those locations, those curb cuts, the separation and how they align across the street. We've also committed, our capital partner is committed to a specified amount of money to put into escrow for Henry County DOT to improve the frontage of Avalon Parkway for our part of the property. We're very excited about being in the city of McDonough. This would be a very attractive facility. We don't have a tenant at this point, but we have a lot of people interested in being in this part of town and being so close to the interchange.
Mayor and Council, what I'm showing you on the screen is what Rose provided to us regarding the vehicular circulation, exit 216 and then 218. There was a question by your planning commission regarding the major corridors, and then also too in relation to the subject site.
A key factor for an industrial building is how quickly can you get to the interstate. We see the majority of our traffic, probably 95%, if not, all truck traffic coming down to the stoplight there at 155 where it aligns with Liberty and going over to 216. We don't see them going up Avalon Parkway to deal with all the retail that's up there. It just slows down traffic. So we did review that with Henry County DOT as well.
This, classic figure square footage, what is that, somewhere between 15 and 18 acres?
The building itself?
Yeah.
Probably, it's about 65% impervious coverage for the building, the parking, and then the future parking in your ordinance allows 80%, so we kept it underneath the DRI. The DRI that was permitted would allow me to get about 1 million square feet on this 53 acres, and we're proposing much less. Something nice too is it's oriented perpendicular to Avalon, so you're not seeing into the truck courts as your cars go by.
Yeah, right now, Avalon, we have a fire station and all. This is it just right, this big track is right beyond that on this side? It's on
No,
this
it's
side?
inside, it's right behind, as you turn onto Industrial at exit 216. Yep. So let me go back to the subject.
All right.
Here's, Mayor, the Avalon Power Station is here.
Yeah.
Here's the subject road.
Oh, yeah.
Exit 216, you come in the bridge, turn at the traffic light, it's on the right. You may know the Cottages Avalon is here at this location.
There you go, yeah.
And the team that will be doing this project, I'm part of a 3-person team, and then we have a capital partner that will be funding it. The 3-person team, we've built Georgia Pacific, Kumho Tire, Pirelli Tire, and Whirlpool. So we have a long history in Henry County area. So.
And she's the landscape architect.
That's another thing I thought I'd throw out there that it was mentioned by the councilwoman here, that landscaping is always an issue. I wear a few hats, I'll be the landscape architect as well. We do have a relocated stream in the front, so that will always remain a buffer. We won't go to the court to get any kind of disturbance or to the state.
Exactly. I'll tell you what,
Are we cutting the curb or is future parking already?
We'll probably have it permitted. They probably won't install this paving at this point, not for this first phase 1.
So you're gonna have 3 curb cuts to begin with, is that right?
We'll permit 4, but we'll construct 3.
what's your time frame?
Well, this is our last hurdle, to make sure that we had concept plan approval. We have engaged the architect to start the facade elevations. We had submitted this one's from Georgia Pacific. It'll be similar, all concrete tilt up with a storefront here and here if we split the building. So we have engaged the architect, we've engaged the civil engineer, and hopefully we'll be closing on the property not too long from now. So they have committed the capital once we get through this last hurdle. Sorry.
No,
No,
that's it.
that's okay. I'm certain that in your seeking the approval for the concept plan, that you're pretty near the close of a deal with someone. But in the event that you aren't, I just wanted to throw out there that McDonough has really paved the golden path to the movie industry. And we've just got so much activity that's taking place in our city that if there is any opportunity or any consideration in courting that particular industry and possibly having this as some type of lot for film, that you might want to put that in your hat for fall as well.
Sure, that'd be great. In our past life, the three of us worked for another development company, and we had a group similar that wanted to set up some kind of film there that it worked great in the industrial, because you've got wide column spacing, you don't have things getting in your way, you've got a high ceiling, and ample parking for any kind of vehicles they have to bring in, so, sure.
And there are incentives through the state of Georgia. You know, we've got a portfolio that we can put together quickly about some of the folks who have been successful in using not only our city, but the proximity to surrounding areas. This is perfect for a hub for that type of activity.
And we'd love to, once we get through the review process here, certainly meet with the folks on the council and the mayor as well to see what kind of industry we can bring in.
Yes, ma'am?
I really hope that you even give a little consideration to that, because the film industry has been something that has been developing since the 60s. And I was on the original group that started the Atlanta Film Festival. And so, needless to say, it's done something really wonderful, you know. And of course, I'm telling Eddie to this point, but that's okay. It'd be wonderful if we could have a film industry in that facility, and the amount of land that you have there, and the proximity on and off for them.
We'd be very interested.
Well, that's certainly a great point. These ladies looking, and there's a lot of activity here.
We've seen it really pick up in the last 6 months. And this general area is just really pretty hot right now.
And Mayor and Council, just also to add to it, this would be part of the construction would coincide with our forecast for the next fiscal year. So it's also economic activity for your community development and business development.
We hope to permit and then maybe start moving dirt January. We've got a stable of construction people, and we try to pull from the local area as well. Of course, the major trade, which is the general contractor, has to be vetted out, but a lot of the subcontractors we can pull from the local areas, and certainly try to do that as much as we can.
Well, I don't have to tell you this new promised land, because you all obviously found it and know about it, right?
I love it down here. I've been working down here since '94.
But thank you so much for being here. Anybody have any more questions?
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you on the 17th. And of course, Ms. Barner, this is in her district. She couldn't make it tonight, but I'm sure she'll be excited about it too.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you.
Mayor, just one other point, and this just popped into my head. Whatever you decide to do, it might be worth having a conversation with the technical college.
Okay.
Just to see what types of opportunities there are for collaboration.
Okay, that'd be great.
That's a good point.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone's time.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm a little embarrassed, council members. Bob Truscott, with the visitors, and of course the council, I guess everybody's met him. He's our new business development director, and I've seen him 2 times, 5 minutes each. We've got many things we've been working on this week. I think I told Gail, it's 6 speeches we've been working on this week, starting tomorrow, and that's neither here nor there. I understand Ms. Vincent met him this morning, and if you haven't met Bob, be sure you do. I understand Craig and Fred had an opportunity to take him to lunch today, and I'll try to see you sometime, maybe next week. But Bob, welcome to McDonough, welcome to this position, and you got a little class, that bow tie. That means a lot to me. Okay. Mr. Dixon, Keith?
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I had an opportunity the reason why I wanted to have this for discussion is to make sure that everybody knows where we're at. I had an opportunity to go down to GDOT this morning. There was some questions about the permit and a camera system that has to be installed that was not originally a part of the plan. They're going to let us move forward with installing the light with the proposed left turn lane. There's no requirements of anything that we have to do. All that I'm asking RJ Haney to do is make sure, they call it a phase, put the phase in, put the wire up, so that when we do get around to making a left turn lane, that all we have to do is hang a light. The camera system, I'll come back to you on a consent or a change order, possibly, or we may have to bid it out. GDOT's going to write the specs for what we have to have for that camera. The camera's actually connected to the next traffic light down on 81, so that they can sync lights, is what they're telling me.
So the camera isn't, and I'm sorry I didn't raise my hand.
No answer.
But the camera isn't for speeding or?
No, it's just for managing the lights and syncing the lights. It's actually, if you look at the lights that are out there, they're actually a domed light that sits underneath that swivels. They're not the lights that are up on top that can actually take, I don't think they can, I don't think they can zoom in even to a point that they could take pictures of tags or anything. But I'll be coming back to you with that. I contacted RJ Haney, Brandon over there, and told him, let's get to work. He sent the material that he had for the poles being certified. Obviously, with the new lights that hang down 4 feet, if we have the height, we can put those. If we don't, then we have to go to, there's an alternative light with the pole height that we have, but we'd have to change the type of light we're putting up there. But we're moving forward, and hopefully you'll see the wires that were up there getting cut down and some progress being made on that.
Anybody have, excuse me, go ahead.
So tonight, we're just asking for the $891.50 to cover the bonds that we required them to have.
Ann?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Vincent? Okay.
Oh, it was Roger, not me.
Okay. How about, motion to the second, how about reading that, and then we'll vote on that. That's a lot of money. Go ahead.
Motion is to approve the amendment to the contract with an additional amount of $891.50, contract with RJ Raymond for the, required for the performance payment bond, and authorize the mayor to sign any necessary document.
Would you please vote, ladies and gentlemen? For?
6 in favor.
And against. All right.
At last.
At last. At last. How many years? And put all those wires, been hanging up there for so long.
Almost 8.
Just about 8 years those wires been.
8 years.
The next one, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna kind of invite you to go outside, and there'll be a demonstration, and we want you to look at this piece of equipment I had an opportunity to look at about 2 weeks ago. Mr. Dickinson is going to take us outside, and those visitors that are with us, Rose and others, if you'd like to go outside to inspect this system that we have, a new system we're considering. So at this time, we're going to recess here and run outside and come back and then continue on with item number 10.
I'm going to start off, if we've got everybody's attention. The system that I originally had Ronnie and Emily looking at was a system that could do both storm drains and sewer pipes, and we're talking about the larger pipes and the larger storm drains. We have a very small camera, but you can't look at a 36-inch pipe and see if it's cracked. All you can see is in real small pipes. So the first thing that we looked at was, I'm going to call this the Prius since I own one. This is a $75,000 unit. It's a portable unit that you put in the back of a pickup truck. You put a camper shell over top of it. It's got, I think it's a 1,000-foot spool reel on it. And I didn't know at this point in time that I was, ready to purchase, but I wanted to look at it. So he brought we'll call that one the Lamborghini demo model down, and somewhere along in the conversation we decided this was the model we wanted to go with, was this brand. So when he came back, he made an offer of the 2014 demo model to us. Now this one was $75,000. Instead of being $145,000, he was going to let us have it for $101,000. And everything comes with it. There's some extras in there. There's carpet on top of it. Actually comes with a rubber matted floor. The rubber matted floor is in there. It comes with some software that you don't normally get. And what we decided is if we're going to get this offered to us for $44,000 less, then I needed for you all to come take a look at it and see if we wanted to go ahead and move forward or not. It'll have the same warranties as a brand new one will have. It has a self-contained generator. This one you'd have to take a generator with you. I've had Steve look at the computer system to make sure that everything's, the grade that we would like to have. He seems very pleased with what's in it. And other than that, I felt like other than trying to describe what it looked like or showing pictures, that maybe if you had an opportunity to step in there and take a look at what we're looking at, that it'd give you a better idea of where we're at with it. This project would be funded out of stormwater because our stormwater program right now is shining a flashlight up a storm drain as far as we can see, and that's how we're inspecting. So that's where we're at, and at some point in time I'd like to go one way or the other, but I just felt like y'all needed to look at it since it was offered to us. So feel free to ask questions. The reps here will be operating the camera system.
Yes.
set up.
How many is going to take at a time? Couple?
7, 4 or 5.
4 or 5, you can just walk on in front. Go ahead, Gus. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
We got it set up outside with the camera. We'll wait a couple more.
Come on in, Bruce. Let's check it out.
Oh, come on in.
Come on in. Let's take a couple. Give me a hand. Yeah, 3 or 4 y'all get up in there.
Got
Yes, ma'am.
a lot of safety features to
All right.
personnel. Basically, what you've got here, you've got a live camera out there right now. And this is a 36-inch pipe I did over in Augusta, and that's just a recording of it. It just shows you kind of what you're looking at. This crawler actually goes through, looks at everything, and allows you to
Just show you
inspect the joints. The problem, the portable system will get you by. The difference is you're in the sunshine, you're in the elements, and here a guy's looking at cracks and stuff inside the pipe. He needs to be able to see it, not have the glare from the outside, being able to observe.
Look, you can see the
Now,
seam and everything.
This camera's looking at 9 o'clock. So it's going up to 12 o'clock, it's going to 3 o'clock, it's going to 6 o'clock. You're basically making a 360 on that joint. Now as I get through, I'm going to go, and this is a big pipe. This is not a small pipe. Now, this camera system will go from a 4-inch sewer line all the way up to a 36-inch main line or storm drain. When I say main.
So what is your distance? Do you have a
1,000 feet.
Is that right?
Where's the camera that actually?
It's outside. We'll go this way if y'all would like, and we'll kind of work our way through. But you have the industrial air conditioning and heating for the guy.
So it comes in this unit, this whole unit, this is it.
If you ordered a brand new one, this would be
As opposed
$140.
to that?
Right.
Oh, well.
I mean, it's no contest really. What you're getting for your money.
No brainer.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I actually paid more than $101,000 for it. That's what I'm asking for. This is because I'm the dealer, and this was my first new unit for this year. I wanted to roll it, so I gave y'all a special deal. You can close the door for heating and air. You have storage in here for the tools that you need, because you have to have a lot of tools.
How long does it take one of our men to operate?
Actually, you would want to be in the picture.
Yes, that's the critical thing. You guys may want to know this.
You would have all your different tools. Lifetime warranty on this toolbox because it is a snap-on. If y'all ever noticed, we use military-style monitors. We don't go to Best Buy and buy a monitor. These are military-style.
That's what that monitor.
We have all kinds of tires. That's a tire that goes on it to make it down to a 4-inch.
It just rolls it down.
And it pans and tilts and zooms. And Arbach is a German company. They invented the first camera system. You know, if you think about lenses, and even if it's a Japanese camera, they all have German lenses in them. And they are the first lead the world in televising equipment.
I'll tell you what, this is
Here's your crawler right here.
Guys, let's tell them about this here. I want y'all to know this. It's pretty important. Is about the remote unit that you can tell them, guys, the remote unit that you have on it, and the purpose of this back monitor.
The back monitor would be for the guy out here, because the guy in there can hear the guy because you actually have a speaker. So if I tell him, if he's running the air conditioner or heater, he's actually doing things like observing the cracks, because it's very, when you have cracks in pipes, you have to be up close and pay attention. If you don't, you'll go right by. And then it comes with a lift to lift the camera. Now that's $35,000 sitting right there.
And so that thing just rolls down through there.
Would y'all like for me to show you?
That's half the cost, and the trailer cost you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's.
There we go, look at that.
Hey, Gail, run it straight there.
I can't see it.
Toy.
There we go.
Oh, I love that.
Come on this way, straight ahead. Want to step
I
in,
was
about to
telling
run over?
everybody about Henry County snaking for the grease.
Turn your camera a little bit.
That's what they use.
So you watch the camera so you can get like the pan view. When the camera turns, see how the camera turns?
Yeah, and that
You
gets
see
the whole
pipe
360, yeah.
when you do that.
We get that toy with it, don't we?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I should have got it last Christmas, but this will do.
Well, that's interesting.
And you can do any kind of pipe, concrete.
You can do any kind of pipe.
Metal.
So it takes two
Any
people
kind
to
of pipe.
operate this, right? Two people.
And honestly, the city being a little older, checking our pipes out is fun.
She's trying to get her a picture of that.
Honey, you get over there behind it, honey.
Go ahead and take it.
I was going to get you too. Oh, well, I don't want to get E.T. by itself.
I can't lay down on the ground.
Now, it takes recommended 2 people. I run it by myself doing the demo, and one person can. But you always want to protect your equipment. So having one person outside watching your cable, because it's going down sharp edges on pipes, it's always good to have 2 people, a crew.
Yeah.
One outside, one inside.
Well, I enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate y'all taking the time to look at it.
How are you doing?
Inspection camera system from P&H Supply at the cost of $101,000, and it'll be paid out of stormwater reserve funds, and it has all the guarantees. It's a demo and it has all guarantees.
And apparently has all the bells and whistles with it. So those that have support the motion, please indicate by raising the hand and opposed, like sign.
And I can't wait till you get the logo on it and send a picture of it to the county.
All right, thank you, Keith.
Mayor, I just wanted to mention as well that Keith had indicated outside that this is an opportunity as well to make an investment not only for our city, but there's an opportunity to help out with some of the neighboring cities as well that will help, kind of pay this down.
No, that's a wonderful thing. He had mentioned that, those other cities, and of course, we've been utilizing, understand with the county, we have having your own equipment is a good thing. Seems like you did all right on that. Tell the gentleman how much we appreciate his being here.
Yes, I will. Thank you. I'll be back.
Okay, Mr. Garden, let's move. I think we're down, we're on 10 right now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Fred.
Real quick, man, as you know, last year you guys authorized us to go forward and put an RFP out to have our codes redone. And we hired Pond and Company to come in and help us with this massive project. And so with that, I've asked Michelle Alexander, who is our project manager from Bond, to come and kind of give us an update. We're going to do this in 2 phases with you. So you'll get 1 phase tonight, because I know we had a huge agenda when we looked at this thing earlier before we amended it, and then we were like 21 items. So we decided to break it up and do 1 part now and then do the other part on the 17th to kind of get you guys up to speed about where we are. So with that, Michelle, would you?
Thank you
Michelle,
so
nice to
much.
see you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. It's very exciting. Everyone's in love with your city. I love using it as a reference for our clients around the region, for your downtown, and the great work that you're doing to plan and make things better. Pond is an engineer engineering, architecture, and landscape architecture firm in urban design. And I say that because I want you to know we've got the in-house civil folks who are looking also at stormwater questions, transportation, and we'll bring in that expertise as we work with your city staff to recommend improvements in your code. What I'm doing tonight is to brief you where we are. We've been working with your city staff. We really appreciate Rodney's time and all the rest of the folks' time to get us up to speed. And I want to walk through that, where we are, and before getting any further, I didn't want to get too far along without checking in with council. We've talked with stakeholders, folks and businesses who use your code or who have been involved with development and asked opinions about that. And so we wanted to walk through with you and just let you know where we are, and then we'll come back and hopefully have a more of a discussion. I do have some questions. I hope we can have a little dialogue and time for that, even though I'm aware how thick your agenda is tonight. So first of all, I'm just going to look at, tell you how we looked at your existing development patterns, and then talk a little bit about what our understanding is for getting quality development. And the way we look at it is your code should be the easiest thing to follow, and it should enable, allow the great development, and should also relate to your economic development, if that's a part of your own desires, and then I'd like to have a discussion. So first of all, we looked at your code, your zoning map, and looked at all of the districts that are currently used. So our question is, do you have the right districts? Do they allow the uses that make sense? We looked at, for example, the C1 and is almost never used. I was kind of surprised that there's so few parcels that are actually C1, and as you see on the left-hand side, the majority is more residential. I took a little circle there, I drew a shape around what I call employment districts. So all of your zoning districts, like C1 and your commercial, and then the blue districts, which are like the industrial and your office institutional, those comprise around 34%. Around 34% of all your zoning districts will allow and facilitate employment. The rest are residential, and that's about 66% of the different kinds of uses, 66%. And then separately from that, of all your things that are zoned, you have 17% of all your zonings are PUDs. And I know how they've been used and how you try to make up for not having a mixed-use district and some of the gymnastics that have been done to try to make that happen. And we understand that's an important piece of what we work with you to create mixed-use products that are appropriate both for your character areas and for the market out there. What kind of product will the consumers want? Part of our approach has been to do a survey. I look at primarily at the edges, so we understand you have a pretty defined downtown, for example, and you have some areas that are pretty well defined on your corridors where you've had consistently put on the same conditions, and so you have those kind of references and segments of your community. But it's also important to look at the edges of that, and so we did a complete survey. This is, for example, coming into downtown, and what are the things we look at, what do we notice maybe from before your code had requirements like berms to screen your parking, for example, and we can see evidence of that in some parts of town. We were told, and we asked for some of the development that you thought was successful. That looked great, and especially on the right-hand side, I think to have the meandering sidewalk like that gives you some flexibility. It creates interest instead of having cookie-cutter requirements of some of the landscaping. It's great to have some of that movement and motion. We also saw, again, this is the Hilton, the Garden Inn. You have variation in roof lines, you have parking screen, a couple elements like that, that it makes sense that we understood that the reason some of these greater quality were emerged is a lot of the conditions that you worked hard to put on these developments. This is South Point Retail, you're familiar with, of course. I'm just showing you that we were doing these surveys, and I've got many more examples to help inform me of what it looks like you want to require on applicants. This is important. This is the Chick-fil-A dumpster area that was screened fully. That's something I didn't see in your code currently. It's very common to have that in the codes that I work with all around the region. If you don't need to have to put it as a condition, we are hoping to work together with you to put things in the code so that you have that certainty yourselves. And also, then it's great for your applicants. Developers want certainty. The biggest thing they crave is, let me know how much it's going to cost ahead of time. So that's a big part of this. Having the record of having many, many pages of conditions is a scare. It's a barrier. It tells the market there's uncertainty there. And so if there's a lot of these that we can discuss together that you'd like to see our firm go ahead and put into the code, that's what we would like to propose, but I wanted to check in with you first. So what we did was, thank you to Rodney and Tina and folks who pulled records, we made a database, essentially, of recent conditions of development that you really liked. And we organized them. I know that's really tiny, but they're organized by the type of conditions. So is it landscaping, is it building facade, is it the transportation, is it roads, is it parking? And then we wrote some of the specifics. I entered the data, what specifically you were asking from the applicant. So we were looking at that. I circled a couple of things on this page. I'm circling about the brick and stone, about the front facade being 25% brick and stone. And if it was at a different part of the site that you wanted front being the front elevation to be consisted of 50% brick and stone. Similarly, this was looking again that you were pretty regularly requiring in your conditions of these sizes. This was Avalon, I believe, materials and facade materials and specifying them. You were specifying parking and how to locate parking around a building. Again, I didn't see that as a requirement currently in your code. There's a number of site design and site layouts that are very common now, and it's a requirement, it's standard. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is some of the pushback sometimes from a developer will say, well, I don't know why I have to do that. Well, the rest of the region is doing that, and it's meant to be not a hardship, it's meant to be to keep the quality of your character, to be inviting, to maintain pedestrian access, and to encourage that, especially if you anticipate growth. And I know you do, and Henry County does, and especially along Jonesboro. The more growth that's going to be pressuring on there, the more you don't want to have a legacy of sea of parking in front. You know you're going to want to have folks who can have access and walk to places and have pedestrian access through and between buildings. It may not feel like that today, but you're planning and approving projects for the future, for 20 years out. So those are some of the things I noticed in your conditions that we will likely bring in when we talk more, as we get more into specifics. One of the documents I looked at, and I looked at a lot of them, you have a lot of plans and previous work, but one I looked at is the code that came to you in 2012. And I know it's been 2 years. This was the ordinance for the downtown. And I wasn't here, and you didn't approve, the council at the time did not approve it. And so I just wanted to check in. I can ignore it completely if you tell me, look, hot button, Michelle, we didn't care for it, and move on, and I'm happy to hear from your direction. Or were there things you want to draw from? Were there just certain things you didn't care about? Because what I look at, I feel like you paid for it. There's some good components to get you some of the things I see you already putting in your conditions. And so, sorry, yes?
But no, Michelle, I'm not sure when we need to actually respond, but I recall that now having to do with form-based design.
Yes.
And that was kind of a new
Yes.
concept for the
Yeah.
council, and we didn't really embrace it.
Feel
But there
comfortable.
is still, there's still merit in looking at it.
Perfect, that's what I wanted to know.
Especially
That was one of the first
for
things I was like,
downtown.
this
But we
idea.
would need to be refreshed in order to be able to respond, because
Sure,
And there's
sure.
some new members on council.
Right.
Absolutely, that's what I
Don't know
figured.
what it is at all, yeah.
Fair enough.
and everybody needs to be up to speed and understand
Yeah.
what it says.
So what I think, if it's okay with you, I'll make sure, I didn't bring hard copies of this presentation, but I'll make sure, of course, through the clerk, I have to have that. And then I'll do a little cheat sheet, And then if it's all right with you, if we could set up maybe meetings with one, maybe two of you at a time and talk through some of the pieces. Right now, if it's okay, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut.
No, that's
you
fine.
off.
No, this is
I'm
what I
really
need to
unsure
hear.
of the format, and I'm wondering, this is exciting, by the way, but I'm wondering at what juncture we'll be able to provide you input on things that are of concern to us.
Yeah.
Just as an example, the whole idea around having mixed-use developments, and in order for us to move forward downtown, we're gonna need to have those types of things as a part of our
Okay.
code. And the philosophy of making sure that when we have, develop our communities, that they're pedestrian friendly, those types of
specifics.
things. And then the other thing is, we've done so many visual preference surveys through
Yeah.
LCI, that's another opportunity to see what the community is seeing and what type of feedback the community has
provided.
given us.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
Also, I will say through our LCI, though, it's been a very limited group of people, not a broad view of people.
Okay.
And I would really like for you to see, if you would track with Rodney, from the time that we started the LCI, we had many, many public meetings with really rather large groups involved. We even had with Alexander Park, we even had county and city had a joint committee that was established.
Sure.
When that was initially put together. There's a tremendous amount of information. And most of it says sustainability,
Yes.
the historical nature,
Okay. Good.
green space and walkability. And sustainability doesn't, in their eye, doesn't mean stucco, because they think that stucco overall, while it that type of look,
Yeah.
they think it doesn't wear well over the years, where
I see.
brick does wear well over the years. And since our little town started out as a brick town, brick-based town, that you see around the square, that we've certainly carried that out, and as you see.
Sure, down the corridor and different.
And you can pick out the things that McDonough has done with its limited capability with our code system as it is.
Right.
And with the amount of conditions we did put on things, that's how we were able to achieve it. Now we need to do something that stabilizes so the economic investment can come and feel secure. But at South Point too, you will see where there were sections that did not come off like they were initially planned.
Okay.
And
So that's a process.
they did not, and if you look at the original drawings and presentation of what South Point was to look like and what we have now,
There's
it's
a
a,
disconnect.
okay, a massive disconnect.
Yes,
So,
okay. No, well, let me then go a little more quickly and just let you know some of the things I looked at. And I'd like to go ahead and then we'll have a little bit more of the discussion and I'd like to touch on some of the things I was looking at including, and then we can come back and debate some of the specifics. Not debate, but refine. So these things then potentially, and that was the first thing I thought, was what you said. I put in here, was it this use of a regulatory plan, this form-based code, was that offsetting? Because to me, it's a whole nother language, and I think it can be very distancing. But, so you're saying some of the things regarding the standards and all of that
The
makes sense?
flexibility for the developers.
Okay, flexibility for the developers. And was there anything, especially for downtown, related to the heights and things like that, that you recall? If there was, because it seemed to
We
be.
need to see it again to be able to
Okay.
comment.
Okay, I'm gonna go through them, that these were items that were likely proposed to be in your code. That they were from that overlay, but also they're standard in most modern codes. There was also a street regulating plan.
Yes.
And I did know, this we can talk more in depth, like you said, you need to see it and we'll walk through it. But just to recall that it identified specific streets by what activities are on them. Not just that they were local or arterials or what their function was, or how many volumes of cars were on them, but rather what was the character of them. And then there were typical drawings for each one of those. And so these exist already for the downtown, and I just thought that this is, because I see this in other places, it could be used separate from the form-based aspect. It could just be part of design, engineering, and construction requirements. You can include that if they looked right to you at the time. And especially if you had that kind of input, you said you had a lot of meetings, it seems to me, then this should be reflecting what all of those meetings were saying. If you said there was a large number of community meetings. The one question I do want to ask is related to the historic designation, and where this council might be. You might not have to answer it tonight, but just if you want to give me direction on what I should bring or prepare, if you could just 1 second, is the definition. You don't have historic buildings designated. You're all set up to do so if you want, but I didn't know if you want any further work on that.
Well, yes, because that's one of the key things that totally identifies McDonough, and I won't even get started because they're dying that I'm even opening my mouth. But
Sure, no, I just
I've
wanted
worked for 30+ years to see that we have a historic district. Yeah, there's 399 on the National Historic Register.
And you have the survey, so I saw the complete survey and all of the great work on the different types. And, so is that to be moved forward as part of this code, or do you want that to be separate? No.
Looks like maybe this time of season.
Now's the time, okay.
It's the time to make us whole.
Let's see what else I have. So these are the components. I just wanted to bring to your attention of how the codes that we work with around the region, and what would work to put your code more into this format, and that is to provide certainty and predictability, go ahead and require design standards, design layouts, and architectural materials, provide for mixed use. I talk about here the missing middle and the millennial housing product. What does that mean? Have you heard that, the missing middle?
Yes.
So you know the boomers and the millennials are this massive generation group, and for the housing product, they want mainly the same thing. And most of our codes don't allow for some of the smaller cottage housing and things like that.
And we've been identified as one of the best areas in the country for retirement, McDonough and Henry County.
Look at that.
And so, while we have a lot of young people wanting to stay here because of the family orientation, we need to really address and have available a real clear picture of what senior housing,
and being careful not to call it senior housing, because we're active. With the older we are,
it's active senior, but you really and truly, people out there want to know that if they're 55 and older, that they are going to something that's not going to be another way. I mean, there's a big,
I see what you're saying.
Big market for people really wanting to know what kind of neighborhood they're living in,
Okay, go ahead, please.
And then I was just, so the certainty and predictability, what you see here, we started drafting some process, some flow charts, and I'll work more with staff to really make these more concrete and talk to you also about them, and also with your planning commission. Deadlines, turnarounds, ways to reduce the time frame it takes, and clarify what is really expected of applicants when they come through. So that was one thing we spent a good amount of time on. And these were just some of the examples of some of the drawings that are materials and layout requirements that other codes have that we will be bringing to your attention and consideration. This was just one example about, again, specifying materials for buildings are in codes. The street framework I mentioned on the bottom there is what that ordinance that you had before you for the downtown had a component of that, so that's similar. And then these were just some of the examples of places and how they organized their UDC, how they unified their code so that definitions all related to the same thing, that they organized guidelines and standards, and were still flexible and attentive to various needs, that it wasn't one shoe fits all. These were the organizations for different things and how like topics get organized together. For example, landscaping currently in our code, in the McDonough code, it's in a lot of different places, and so it's easier both to for the users, who are your staff, to enforce it, and your applicants, to, your designers to look for it, and for you, if you need to know, oop, it's in there, I don't have to worry about it and put another layer of conditions on and debate, the specific plant material. It'll be in your code. In one clear place, that's the ambition. That's all. I wanted to bring you up to speed with that and just start the conversation and let you know where we have been thinking.
I just wanted to mention one other thing. It was interesting that you went to housing and the subject of seniors, because what I didn't see is something that's happened in District 2 where I serve. It's the Jonesboro Road area over near Kroger, Wesley Lakes, that corridor. What has happened, and I'm not sure it was planned, but it's really beautiful because a lot of seniors who have disabilities have located in that area. And so you have within, I would say, a 1 mile radius, everything that you would need in order to survive.
Oh, yes, great.
And it's all in wheelchair accessibility. So you can drive to Kroger's in your wheelchair. You can go to the doctor in your wheelchair. You can go to the convenience store in your wheelchair. Very shortly, we'll have a park, and so folks can even have recreation from their wheelchair. So again, I know a great part of that had to do with it being a planned unit development.
Sure.
But when GDOT came in and expanded the highway and made it 4 lanes, they made the lanes actually, the sidewalks wider.
Okay.
And so it created a different level of accessibility than what was planned. So
Great.
I think it serves as a model for a lot of communities, because you don't have to have a car to live in that area.
And Sandra, I want to take this opportunity to thank Rodney Hurd, because he did do that. And when he was planning the city as we developed, it was to have a node around which you could live, and everything would be accessible. And that is his plan.
Well, we need to duplicate that.
Yeah, and make it into your code. Great, thank you so much for your time, and we'll follow up with, I'm setting up some meetings if that's all right. Okay, thank you.
Michelle, do you by chance know Mike Alexander?
Yes, I would say we are lifelong friends.
You tell Mike what a wonderful fellow. I served on the ARC on 3 different times.
Oh, you have?
And I was, he put me under his wing, and what a tremendous individual he is. And for you folks, what a great career you both have, and so talented and gifted. Please give him our
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see where we are, folks. Get on with next. Mr. Gardner, you and Ms. Grant, item number 11, I believe, is where we are, right?
And we were last thing before we hit to
That's right.
session.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
Rita and Ms. Deborah are gonna actually take the lead on this and kind of give you a quarterly update on finances.
Good deal. Thank you.
And we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Ms. Lolita.
So you should have received in your package, reports for September 30th. You got a bunch of numbers. Today's presentation is to put some meat behind those numbers, to give you an explanation as to what those numbers mean. You also received in your package some information regarding IT, and we were going to talk about Encode. We want to also.
What kind of package?
Nobody gave me any packages. I emailed them, but I'll send them back out the numbers. Okay, I scanned them. Okay, we'll go over this, and this is what I'm going to do, is just load this on the internet instead of sending this particular information, this package out, I just load it on the internet, and then everyone, unless you want a personal copy of this. Because what I sent to you was the encode numbers, but I'll go ahead and get that.
Go ahead.
This is looking over for me. It's not a problem. What this is unaudited report for September 30th, 2014. And in this presentation, I'm going to compare your revenues and expenses and kind of give you an explanation as to what's happening with that. We're going to start with the general fund. For the period ending September 30th, 2014, the city took in $1,603,305 for the period ending September 30th, 2014, which is the first quarter of FY 2015. This represented $196,208 decrease over revenues for the same period, September 30th. While the revenues as a whole decreased, we had some special areas that we need to pay attention to. There's property taxes, motor vehicle taxes, as well as franchise taxes and losses. As you can see from the chart, we have property taxes that was collected at $193,000 in September 2013. For 2014, it's only $58,000.
Do we know why?
It's just the time in the collection. They're slow, taxpayers are a little bit slower paying this year because the deadline for paying your taxes is November 15th. So some years they may pay early, some years they may pay late. But this year we're seeing collections at a decrease. Okay. And also what happened last year is we collected a lot of prior year property taxes. So that's gone down this year. Franchise taxes. Franchise taxes for this year, we collected $39,000. We collected $39,566,000 last year at the same period. This is at the period in September. We're comparing September to September. This year we collected $49,999,000. Lost this year, we collected $750,000. Last year was $706,000, so we see a slight increase for that. Business and occupational taxes, last year we were at $16,000. We down a little bit by, we collected $13,000 this year. Licenses and permits, we have a slight increase. We collected $75,905 last year. This year we collected $87,000, so we're up a little bit in that area. And fines and forfeitures, we collected last year, we were at $437,459. This year we're at $403,024. We do the next graph. General property taxes. General property taxes decreased by $153,825 when you compare that to last year revenues. Now this includes your sales tax, your sales tax and your property taxes. The total amount collected this year is $164,000. Now, we're not expecting revenues to meet the budgeted amount because our budget was based on the 4.997. We've only actually adopted 4.375. So we're expecting that's a 0.622% meal decrease. So we're expecting the revenues to be short approximately $418,000. So we have to make some adjustments. Revenues for real property taxes and motor vehicles decreased by $134,167 and $23,938 respectively when compared to last year. Roughly 70% of our property taxes are collected during the second quarter of our fiscal year, which will be November. Okay, so it's somewhat we need. Pardon me?
That would change pretty drastically.
It's going to change, yes, because most of your revenues are collected by November 15th. So whatever we get, you will collect probably about 87% of that by November.
Is that motor vehicle, how much was that decrease over last year?
$23,000 for motor vehicles.
Is that due in part because of the new way it's collected?
Well, we're still monitoring that. Last year was the first full year in which they had to change. Last year we saw an upswing. So this year it should stabilize, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen.
And then if there's any adjustment, the state has said that they will make some adjustment to those cities that saw loss. Okay. Franchise tax revenues collected for the period ending September 30th. Franchise taxes collected for the period ending September 30th, 2014 was $49,999. That's a slight increase of over $10,000 over the same period last year. Revenues from insurance premiums and electrical usage, which is your electric franchise tax, are collected during the second and third quarter. So you'll see an increase in this. The combined revenues for these two, insurance premiums and electrical franchise fee, is roughly about 69%. And your insurance premium is generally about $1 million or more. I think it came in this year at 1.1 million. And your electric is roughly about 750,000. So we will see those in the second and third quarter. Electric coming in February. Next slide. Sales tax, this is your loss, okay? Tax collection for this period was $750,000. It's an increase of $43,816 from the same period last year. The increase is due in part to increased collections and the slight increase we got in our loss negotiation, our percentages. The revenues for this particular fund is on target, this revenue source is on target, and we should monitor this just to make sure we stay on target with those revenues. Next slide. Business, occupation, and alcohol tax revenues collected for the first quarter was $125,596. It's a slight decrease of a little over $4,300 from the same period last year. Revenues from alcohol taxes was $112,047, which is a slight increase over last year of about $1,500. Now, revenues from business and occupational tax are not due until December 31st, so it doesn't have any material impact on the first quarter revenues. So you'll see that revenues next year.
And when it comes to occupational tax, I will tell you that one of the things we're seeing is that we have some outstanding, a high number of outstanding non-collections or payment on our occupational tax. The staff has gone back as much as 3 years to get some folks to pay up on their occupational tax, and we basically set the cutoff. The other side of that is just going back to double check to make sure that some businesses that are still in business. We're using the code folks officers to go out and look to make sure that those businesses are still there. It's harder to trace the home-based businesses, obviously, but we recognize that some of our businesses aren't paying on time. Some of them have been delinquent for a couple of years. We're catching that. Joni and Michelle have been working to work with each one of those businesses one by one, just to help them come in and pay those delinquent back taxes and the back occupational tax and forward. So at some point we should see some rises in that. The other one that we're looking at when it comes to occupational taxes, we do all our collections at the end of the year. We're actually investigating going to an anniversary date system that's easier on the staff and it'll go throughout the year. It's easier to track. But it'll also have, and talking to the leader, we'll see some slight changes in the way the revenue comes in when you do that.
Well, I've had a lot of business owners ask for that. And a lot of things come due at the end of the year business-wise, and anything we can spread that out, I think will help. Help us internally, but also help business owners.
We need to be careful because we have to remember you collect most of your funds from property taxes. And that's basically collected in November. So and then you have another upswing in cash in October, and the next upswing is in February. So you have to really, if you're going to change your dates, you need to make sure that it falls in line with the cash flows, because we use those reserves to actually operate on those months that we don't have. Your loss only covers one payroll. All other operations is picked up from operations from property taxes, sales tax, franchise taxes, and things of that nature. So if you're going to change it, you got to really look at that and see the impact on the cash flows.
But that's an investigation we're going to do. I know that's something that we've discussed.
And I think
on the tax and license.
we did have that discussion, I guess, some years ago.
Yes.
After that.
But you'll come back to us with some recommendations based on cash flow?
Yeah.
Because
because don't ask us to do, to make those recommendations, because we need to know, you know, we won't have as much insight as you will.
And as we start talking about cash flows, when I finish up, I'll let you know, you'll see the impact and the changes that we have on cash flows and controls we put in place. Okay, license and permits. Revenues from regulatory fees, license and permits were $87,279, an increase of $11,375 from September of last year. Revenues from this source is not in line with projections. They're roughly 18% below our projections. However, revenues from commercial building permits are in line with projections. In fact, they exceeded somewhat that area, 42% greater than that. This is an area that this is an area that you really need to watch because it tells you the growth of your city, some things that's going on and businesses coming. And there's some of the things that they're doing, if they want to start constructing and they need licenses and permits, that's an indication of where they're going. So that's an area that we really need to watch. Next slide, fines and forfeitures. Fines and forfeitures recorded through the first quarter was $403,124, a decrease of $34,335 from the same period last year. The decrease can be contributed in part to the state mandate that prohibit the use of the radar detectors for the first quarter of the year. So we expect to see that revenue increase since we are allowed to use the radars again. General fund expenditures. General fund expenditures for the period ending September 30th, 2014 was $2,753,095. That's 21.2% of the total budgeted expenses, so we're on target. And that is a decrease of $568,000 from the same period last year. That decrease in expenditures are due in part to the decrease in legal costs. Last year we had to pay out $300,000 for the Georgia Homeowners Association. Litigation, okay. And so far the expenses are, for the most part, in line with projections. Last slide, cash balance. The general fund operating cash balance was $1,289,157 at September 30th. It represented an increase of $1.1 million from September of last year. The increase is due in part to internal controls that were put in place to help effectively manage cash flow and the cooperation of staff and reducing some of the costs. Okay. The cash balance for the first quarter is generally low, and operations are funded through reserves from cash operations from prior years, sales taxes, and non-seasonal revenues. You will see an increase in the second quarter cash balances as we collect general property taxes as well as business and insurance premiums. And if I looked at this if I do this in a 4-year comparison, when I did this in 2011, you had almost a negative. For the general fund, there was a negative $1 million. So you saw it go up, go down, it fluctuates. So with us putting some controls in place, we're trying to stabilize that. We're trying to manage. So when we pay bills 30 days, it allows us to use the cash during this period of time where cash flow is kind of tight. So those are some things that we've been doing, and you see the improvement in cash. Hotel and motel revenues. Hotel and motel revenues for the period ending September 30th, 2014 was $155,082. That's a decrease of $26,000 from the same period last year. We did have the decrease is due in part to collection of delinquent taxes, which was rectified, and we received payment on all but two hotels in the second quarter of this year. So we expect that revenue to increase. Expenditures was $68,820, which is a decrease of $4,002, but most of your expenditures for the hotel motel fund at this time deals with the hospitality industry, so if the revenues go up, the expenditures go up as well. The cash balance in this account was $429,342. SPLOST 3 revenues. The revenues for SPLOST 3 was $2,149, a decrease of $122,778 from last year, and that's due in part because SPLOST ended as of March 31st, and the city does not anticipate any additional revenues except for interest. However, there may be times when there is an audit by the state and funds will come back that way. The expenditures for the period ending September 30th was $125,039. That's a decrease of $116,894. And the reason for this is during the same period last year when we were constructing the police headquarters. The reason for this is we were doing capital outlay for the parks, and this year we are doing, the only expenditures are for the Alexander Park. The cash balance in this fund is $2,395,696, which is an increase of $442,505 from last year. SPLOST 4 fund revenues for the period in September 30th, 2014 was $249,073. The city did not have SPLOST 4 last year, so therefore we have no comparison. The expenditures for this fund was $243,632, and they represent costs to purchase police cars, fire trucks, and update the city's IT infrastructure. The balance in this account was $830,015. Impact fees, revenues for this fund was $43,705, which is an increase of $11,978 from the same period last year. The increase is due in part to development within the city. So we're seeing an increase in revenues from that source. Expenditures is zero. That represent a decrease of $43,155 from last year, because last year they were working on completing the police headquarters. Okay, the cash balance in this fund is $352,699, which is a decrease of $680,320 from September 30th. Again, the reason for the decrease is the renovation of the new police building. The water fund revenues from that period, for this period, is $1,520,945, which is a decrease of $710,546 from last year. That decrease is due in part to the funds we received from the GFA loan to do the sewer rehab. So that's income. Once it's completed, we no longer receive any revenues from that. And that will convert to the loan. Expenditures for the period was $1,033,529, which is a decrease of $651,370. The cash balance is $3,939,408, which is a decrease of $1,817,076. And finally, the stormwater. The funds for this revenues from this account, from this fund, was $17,784, a decrease of $35,974. Expenditures was $85,752.45, which is an increase of $46,459. And the increases are due in part to capital equipment that they purchased. And the fund balance is $2,376,214, an increase of $135,000 over last year. The only debt that we have for the period in September 30th is $3,309,000. This is due for the GFA loan. However, in the second quarter, since we have completed the sewer rehab project, we will see another $3 million debt that we will have to start paying back. Any questions? I know I went kind of fast.
Stormwater is a flat rate, so why would we see a decrease in stormwater funds if it's a flat rate per home?
No, there was a decrease in collection. You remember it's paid, what happens with our collection is that the county assesses the tax and they send us what has been paid. So we're seeing a decrease in the collection. People are not paying as timely as they were last year. That's your decrease.
All right, yes ma'am, go ahead.
When are we scheduled to start paying the loan back?
We are in the process now of finalizing that loan. We're waiting on some drawings and some other required documents that we have to submit to GFA. And once those documents are submitted, then they'll give us a debt service schedule, and we'll start making those payments. And those payments, from what I looked at, is going to run us about $350 a year. So So right now, we're paying $300,000, so that's going to be roughly about $700,000 that's coming out of the water fund.
Anybody else? Great report, ma'am. Very good, very good. First quarter, we'll see how things go, and thank you so much for that. And
Things are basically where we expected them to be in the first quarter.
Except for some of the revenues,
Yeah.
we're going to have to make some adjustments.
Right.
this is the dry season, September, dry.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I will get these to you, and I apologize if they didn't come over, but I will make sure they come over.
I have one additional question. You mentioned that there is a $418,000 plus or minus shortfall. So, Mayor, have there been any communications with staff on how we're going to adjust that within the budget? I know there have been meetings between you and certain council persons.
yeah, I don't have the figures, but I think that, and maybe tomorrow, next week I'll have to talk to her, but I feel comfortable about it.
But have staff been engaged in the conversation?
Oh, no, I'm still working, I was working on it as late as last week, and my figures, but I feel comfortable with it, and I'll certainly share that with next week and show all my figures. And
Well, Mayor, I'm asking for input on the part of staff, because that's important. We need a professional eye.
That's right.
And not just an electric eye when it comes down to this, because we're gonna be hit with a couple of things that I wasn't really conscious of the fact that we're gonna have to make some additional payments relative to that GFA loan. So we've got a lot of capital things that are coming online that's gonna impact our budget. And so I think it's very important that we have some discussions with staff.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, let's see. Fred, thank you. Let's see where we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to item number 12. And I entertain a motion to go into executive session for OCGA section 50-14-4 for litigation. Real estate, OCGA 50-14-3B1. And last but not least, personnel, OCGA 50-14-3B2. We have a second. And a second. Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, those, Janice, will you share the motion and a second, and then we'll vote?
The motion is to go into executive session for litigation, OCGA 50-14-2, and for real estate, OCGA 50-14-3B1, and personnel, OCGA 50-14-3B2.
All right, would you please vote, ladies and gentlemen? Those in favor? Those in opposition?
6 in favor, Mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will probably be gone for some time, and I want to ask Ms. Monita and Keith to join us in executive session. If you'd like to stay, I don't even have a coat for you. Maybe we can find one, but I apologize. But we have a long session tonight, and thank goodness that clock is 1 hour ahead. I looked up there and I said, we won't get out to 12. But anyway, thank you so much, and we'll be back if we have anything to report. Ladies and gentlemen, entertain a motion to go back into our regular meeting. So moved. And a second. Motion made and second. Anybody have any questions? Ms. Price, please state the motion and the second.
The motion is to go back into our regular workshop.
Okay, those in favor, please signify by hand. Those opposed, like sign. It
I
is
think that was 6 in favor.
6 in favor. Members of, that are visiting with us, we have one item, action item. This time I'll call on the clerk.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to engage the law firm of A. Joel Bentley Jr. as special counsel for certain matters as discussed in executive session, and to authorize the mayor to execute the related retainer agreement.
And a second. And a second. And you'll have one more opportunity, folks, for any questions relative to the motion and the second. Anybody have any questions? Apparently there are none. This time, Ms. Price, share the motion.
The motion is for the city to engage the law firm of A. Joel Bentley Jr. to serve as special counsel for certain matters as discussed in executive session, and to authorize the mayor to execute the related retain our agreement.
Would you please vote, ladies and gentlemen?
6 in favor.
No opposition. Thank you so much. And the last thing is, those that are present, and certainly our council members, and on behalf of the city, it's my duty to acknowledge and regretfully accept the resignation of our city administrator and our friend, effective November 30, 2014. And that's to be put into our minutes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Our city administrator, Frederick Gardner. And Fred, what a blessing you've been to us and to this city, and the difference you made. I can't praise you enough. So, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we get down to the city administrator. We're gonna give you everybody a minute or two. My suit's getting cold. Mr. Administrator, welcome. Any comments?
No, sir, I'm gonna savor everything I got one more meeting to be, I'll cry then.
No, thank you, Fred.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. For those who are here, we'll be meeting here at 6:30 a.m. in the morning to leave. As Ruth has said, we'll go home, change and have breakfast and come back. And then next Thursday night is the HMA dinner at Stockbridge at 6:30. Thank you, that's all.
Okay.
I'll pay everybody here $1 to forbear your comments so we can go ahead and leave.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Is that, quickly, Ms. Benson?
Fred will up the ante.
All right. Rufus?
I'll defer until next time.
All right. What about have a motion for adjournment? Do we have a second? All in favor, stand.